The rain in the city felt like liquid lead, blurring the neon lights of the wharf into smears of electric blue and bruised purple. Jax shifted his weight, his leather jacket creaking in the silence of the warehouse. He wasn't a man who made mistakes. As the top enforcer for the Vane Syndicate, his job was precision. "Target is in the black sedan," the voice crackled in his earpiece. "The senator's daughter. Bring her to the safe house. No bruises, Jax. She's our leverage." Jax moved with the silent, predatory grace of a wolf. When the sedan pulled into the darkened lot, he didn't hesitate. He intercepted the figure in the silk wrap, a quick press of a cloth soaked in sedative, and she was limp in his arms. She felt smaller than the photos, more delicate, and she smelled like jasmine and something fiercely expensive. It wasn't until he reached the isolated mountain cabin, a fortress of cedar and reinforced glass, that the world shifted on its axis. He laid her on the oversized velvet sofa, the amber firelight dancing over her features. As the sedative wore off, she didn't scream. She didn't beg. She simply sat up, pushing a stray lock of honey blonde hair from her face, and looked at him with eyes that were a startling, defiant silver. "You're not the senator's daughter," Jax rasped, his hand instinctively going to the holster at his hip. His heart hammered a rhythm he didn't recognize. "I'm the girl who was sitting next to her," she replied, her voice a low, melodic thrum that vibrated in the small room. She stood up, her silk dress clinging to her curves like a second skin. She didn't retreat, she walked toward him, stopping so close he could feel the heat radiating from her skin. "I'm Elena. And I think you just made the most beautiful mistake of your life, Jax." Jax should have called his boss. He should have ended the contract. But as Elena reached out, her cool fingers trailing over the ink of the tattoos on his forearm, the wrong girl felt like the only thing that had ever been right. "You don't know who I am," he growled, his voice dropping to a possessive, dangerous crawl. He stepped into her space, his large frame caging her against the heavy wooden mantel. "I know exactly who you are," she whispered, her gaze locking onto his with a searing intensity that promised both ruin and redemption. "You're the man who's going to realize that some prizes are worth burning the whole world for." Before he could pull away, she reached up, her hand tangling in his dark hair, and pulled his mouth down to hers. It wasn't a captive's kiss, it was a reclamation. And in that moment, Jax knew the syndicate was the least of his problems. The mountain wind howled against the reinforced glass of the cabin, but inside, the air was thick with a different kind of storm. Jax pulled back from the kiss, his breathing ragged, his pulse drumming against his collarbone. He was a man of cold logic and violent certainties, but Elena, this mistake, was a chaotic fire he didn't know how to extinguish. "You should be terrified," Jax rasped, his hand gripping the edge of the mahogany mantel as he forced himself to create an inch of distance. "Do you have any idea what happens to people who get in the way of the Vane Syndicate?" Elena didn't flinch. She stepped back into his space, her silk dress rustling like a secret. She reached out, her fingers tracing the jagged scar that ran along his jawline, a souvenir from a life he'd never asked for. "I spent my life surrounded by senators and plastic smiles, Jax," she whispered, her silver eyes locking onto his with a searing, unfiltered honesty. "I've been safe my whole life, and I've never felt more like a ghost. You're the first real thing I've touched in years." The confession was a physical blow. Jax looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the hunger for life that mirrored his own hidden desperation. He was her captor, but in the amber glow of the fire, it felt like she was the one holding the keys. Suddenly, the encrypted radio on his belt chirped, a sharp, digital intrusion. "Jax. Status report," the voice of his handler, Silas, cut through the intimacy. "The senator is losing his mind. Is the girl secure? We're sending a transport team to the coordinates in 2 hours to move her to the black site. Jax looked at Elena. The black site was a one-way trip. If he handed her over, she'd disappear into the syndicate's machinery to cover up his error. If he kept her, he was a dead man walking. She's secure, Jax lied, his voice sounding foreign to his own ears. But the roads are washing out. Tell the team to hold position until dawn. He clicked the radio off and tossed it onto the sofa. The silence that followed was heavy with the weight of his betrayal. He turned back to Elena, his expression darkening with a possessive, protective fury. "You just cost me my life," he growled, stepping toward her until she was backed against the plush velvet of the oversized bed. "Then make it count," she breathed, her hands reaching up to catch the lapels of his leather jacket, pulling him down into the shadows of the furs. Jax didn't fight it this time. He claimed her mouth with a ferocity that was half desperation, half devotion. He was no longer an enforcer, he was a man protecting the only mistake he ever wanted to keep. As they sank into the warmth of the bed, the world outside, the syndicate, the senator, the danger, faded into the rhythmic, heated reality of their bodies. But as the fire began to dim to glowing embers, a faint, rhythmic pulsing light caught Jax's eye from the window. Far down the mountain trail, 3 sets of headlights were winding their way up. Silas hadn't waited for dawn. The cabin was no longer a sanctuary, it was a glass trap. The headlights winding up the mountain path cut through the blizzard-like searchlights, marking the countdown to a confrontation Jax had spent a decade avoiding. He was the syndicate's favorite weapon, and now he was the target. "They're early," Jax hissed, his voice a low, lethal rasp as he pulled on his boots. He checked the clip of his sidearm, the cold metallic click echoing in the sudden silence of the room. Elena sat up, the furs sliding down her shoulders. She didn't look like a victim, she looked like a woman who had just found something worth fighting for. "They're coming for the senator's daughter. When they realize I'm not her." "They won't care," Jax interrupted, his eyes meeting hers with a raw, protective intensity. To Silas, a witness is a liability. "You're not a mistake to them, Elena. You're a loose end." He grabbed a heavy tactical parka and threw it to her. "Put this on. We're not staying for the welcoming committee." They didn't head for the front door. Jax led her to a hidden crawlspace beneath the kitchen floor, a narrow, stone-lined tunnel that smelled of damp earth and old cedar. As they crawled through the dark, the sound of heavy boots shattered the glass upstairs. The muffled roar of Silas's voice drifted down, cold and demanding. "Jax. I know you're here. Bring the girl out and maybe I'll let you keep your hands." Jax didn't breathe. He pressed his back against the stone wall of the tunnel exit, his hand covering Elena's mouth. Not to silence her, but to feel the steady, defiant rhythm of her breath against his palm. He leaned in, his lips brushing her ear. "If we make it to the trailhead, there's an old bike hidden under a tarp," he whispered. "You don't look back. You ride until you hit the highway." "I'm not leaving you," she breathed, her silver eyes flashing in the dark. "You have to," Jax growled, his hand tightening possessively on her shoulder. "Because if I'm worrying about you, I can't do what I need to do to make sure they never follow us." He pushed open the heavy iron grate at the end of the tunnel. They emerged into the freezing bite of the storm, the wind whipping Elena's hair into a golden veil. Jax pulled her into a final, searing kiss, a desperate vow of survival, before shoving her toward the hidden motorcycle. But as the engine roared to life, a red laser dot danced across Jax's chest. "Going somewhere, brother?" Silas stood on the ridge above them, a thermoscope rifle leveled at Jax's heart. He wasn't smiling. He looked like a man who had been betrayed by his only friend. Behind him, 3 more enforcers emerged from the tree line, their weapons drawn. Elena didn't ride away. She revved the engine, the back tire kicking up a spray of slush and gravel, and looked Silas dead in the eye. The red laser dot danced across Jax's heart, a steady, lethal pulse in the freezing mountain air. Silas stood on the ridge like a dark god of the underworld, his finger hovering over the trigger. The wind howled between them, carrying the scent of pine and impending gunpowder. "You were the best I had, Jax," Silas shouted over the storm, his voice devoid of emotion. "Precision. Logic. No attachments. And then you bring her here. A girl who doesn't even belong in our world. Jax didn't move a muscle, but his eyes were locked on Elena. She was still on the bike, the engine a low, rhythmic growl beneath her. He could feel the heat of her gaze, the silver defiance that had changed everything in less than 48 hours. "She's not the target, Silas," Jax called back, his voice a low, dangerous rumble. "The contract was for the senator's daughter. This is a civilian. You kill her, and you bring the kind of heat even the Vane Syndicate can't survive." "She's a witness to your betrayal," Silas countered, the laser dot shifting slightly as he adjusted his aim. "That makes her a target." In a split second, the world exploded. Elena didn't flee. She kicked the kickstand up and revved the bike to a deafening scream, fishtailing the rear tire into a snowbank and sending a massive spray of ice and slush directly into the line of sight of the enforcers on the tree line. "Now," she screamed. Jax moved with the blurred speed of a man who had survived 1,000 such moments. He dived behind a heavy granite boulder just as Silas's first shot shattered the frozen ground where he'd been standing. Jax drew his sidearm, returning fire with surgical precision, forcing the enforcers to scramble for cover. Elena didn't stop. She rode the bike straight toward the ridge, the tires gripping the rocky incline with desperate traction. She wasn't running away, she was flanking them. "Elena, get out of here!" Jax roared, popping up from behind the boulder to lay down a suppressive fire. But she was already airborne, the bike leaping over a fallen log and skidding to a halt just yards from Silas. Before the lead enforcer could turn his rifle on her, Jax had closed the distance, his large frame slamming into Silas with the force of a landslide. They tumbled down the embankment, a chaotic tangle of leather, snow, and raw, masculine fury. Silas was fast, but Jax was fighting for more than a paycheck. He was fighting for the wrong girl, who had become his only truth. Jax pinned Silas against the base of the cabin's porch, his forearm crushed against Silas's throat. "It's over," Jax hissed, the cold steel of his barrel pressed against Silas's temple. "Call them off. Now." Silas looked up, coughing, his eyes flicking to Elena, who stood at the top of the ridge, silhouetted by the dying moon. She looked like a queen surveying a conquered kingdom. "She changed you," Silas wheezed, a dark, blood-flecked smile touching his lips. "You're weak now, Jax. You have something to lose." "No," Jax whispered, his grip tightening with a possessive, lethal intensity. "I finally have something worth keeping." The mountain air was a choir of sirens and screaming wind. Jax held Silas against the frozen earth, the barrel of his weapon a cold, final punctuation mark against the syndicate leader's temple. On the ridge above, Elena stood like a statue of silver and defiance, the idling motorcycle a low, rhythmic heartbeat in the dark. "Call them off, Silas," Jax growled, his voice a raw, jagged edge. "Or the Vane legacy ends right here in the mud." Silas looked up, his face bloodied but his eyes still dancing with a cold, intellectual amusement. He looked past Jax, toward Elena. "You really think you can keep her? A ghost and a girl with a senator's shadow? You'll be running until the day you die, Jax." "Then we'll run," Jax whispered, his grip tightening with a possessive finality. "But we'll be together." A heavy silence fell over the ridge. The remaining enforcers, seeing their leader pinned and the wrong girl holding the high ground, lowered their weapons. They were mercenaries, and the wind had shifted. Silas let out a short, dry laugh and signaled a slow, two-fingered retreat. "Go," Silas wheezed. "But remember, Jax, I don't forget a debt. And you owe me a life." Jax didn't wait for a second invitation. He scrambled up the embankment, his boots throwing up sprays of ice, and vaulted onto the back of the motorcycle behind Elena. He wrapped his massive arms around her waist, pulling her back against his chest, a solid, protective wall of heat. "Drive," he commanded against her ear. Elena cracked the throttle. The bike screamed, the rear tire biting into the gravel as they plummeted down the mountain trail, away from the cabin, away from the syndicate, and into the vast, black uncertainty of the forest. They didn't stop until the sun began to bleed over the horizon, painting the Pacific Highway in strokes of gold and violet. Jax pulled the bike over at a lonely coastal overlook. The world felt quiet for the first time in years. "You're the wrong girl, Elena," Jax said, his voice dropping to a low, melodic velvet as he tucked a stray lock of hair behind her ear. His touch was no longer that of a captor, but a man who had finally found his North Star. "And you're the wrong man," she replied, her silver eyes reflecting the rising sun. She reached up, her fingers tracing the V of his leather jacket. "But I think we're exactly where we're supposed to be." Jax pulled her into a slow, deep kiss, a seal on a new contract, written in blood and moonlight. The gilded cage was gone. They were outlaws, they were targets, and they were finally, dangerously free. The mistake turned into a masterpiece. Jax and Elena have escaped the syndicate's reach, but the world is a small place for two people who know too many secrets. Is this a happy ending, or just the start of a legendary hunt? Fire if you want a sequel where the senator fights back. Crush that like button. Bell subscribe and turn on all notifications to join the syndicate of romance. Speech balloon comment, mistake if you think they're safe, or vain if you think Silas is already tracking them.